I bought one of those Temu'd garages. I'm putting it together. Now it's gonna be multi-purpose. Number one is to basically be the garage here so that this sort of crap, pun intended, doesn't happen. But number two, it's gonna be my paint booth. And believe me, I debated several minutes, hours, days, weeks about whether or not to put it out here, which is outside but 3-wall covered, or putting it actually inside the shop itself where I've been painting lately. You know, I used to paint basically where the Acadia is sitting, but I used to just paint literally as is, so wind and all. This was the only coverage I had, was just the 3 walls. And as you see today, the wind is freaking crazy, so I probably won't be able to complete the garage, but I mean, it looks like it's going to be big enough to be a paint booth. And you know, as infrequently as I paint, it should be all right. But winds like we're having today may tear it up quite quickly. I don't know. We'll find out if I got Temu'd or if I got a heck of a deal buying this. But it's the 13-foot by 20-foot garage, so should be big enough. Even, not that I'm going to paint the truck, but if I was, it should fit in there. Basically, the pieces lock together, which is nice because, you know, I had one of those Harbor Freight carport thingies, and I want to say these pieces just fit together without any kind of connection, and so they would, when it was windy like today, it would just blow down. And again, that's the wind up by the door, so, you know, 30 or 40 feet away from the opening. Just unbelievable. We get this kind of wind all the time. And it never fails. It's on the day when I either need to paint or I'm building something or need to climb a ladder outside, or, you know, it's never just a day when it doesn't matter if it's windy. Inside there are all the garage walls and roof pieces. I don't know if this is the actual material or if that's like a bag holding them. I haven't cracked into there yet. But just looking at it here, I don't have a lot of faith that they're real sturdy. And there's the other pieces for the middle, I guess. But I mean, the metal part seems as sturdy as anything else, so I think that part will hold up. The question's going to be with the wind. Is that stuff going to just rip apart? I mean, that's what basically happened with my carport. The fabric just kept being pulled away from the metal until it started ripping everywhere. And of course, since the metal parts weren't locked together, they would just fall apart all the time too, until I went out and put screws to hold every one of them in. But then eventually the screws would rust and stuff. I mean, it was good for a very short time, let me put it that way, but once it started becoming a problem, it just became a money pit. And I'm hoping that this doesn't do the same. Trying to give you a view of the whole thing. So it's not written in the instructions, but obviously these middle pieces, you want them to have the rounded in the middle and the straight on going end to end. Even though I think that you can click them all together any way you want until you get to this step, and then they won't fit. The other thing is obviously make sure all these little things are locked into place so that it stays together, but now it's pretty sturdy, all things considered. And yes, I did pull the truck out of here because I realized that I was either going to be scratching up the paint or laying this across the truck or whatever, and that probably wouldn't be the best idea. So now I'm working in here. I don't know what I haven't read yet what the next step is, but my experience with doing stuff like this in the past, it's probably best to go ahead and put the roof on the ground rather than trying to do it when the whole thing is assembled. The wind is of course going to make that a challenge, but it is what it is. And I am really hoping that those are not what secures the roof to the frame, because if it is, they last for like a week and then they get too stretched out. And then you end up using zip ties and then they break and on and on and on. So, but looking at that, I have a fear that that's exactly what those are for. I was right, the instructions say to go ahead and put the legs on next. I'm sure their reasoning is because the roof connects to the bottom of the legs to hold it on. I'm going to go ahead and put the roof on first, even though it won't be fully connected, then put the legs on. One thing I forgot to mention, and this was good, they did label the parts clearly, so you're not stuck here going, gee, is this an X or a B pipe, because they're all labeled. So that was an unexpected benefit, being that this was from Temu'd. I really wasn't expecting a whole lot. So anyway, I'll go ahead and put the roof on and then the legs, and I'm going to anchor it into the concrete here since I can, and it comes with anchors and so forth, kind of like I did with my tire changer. So there's the first disappointment. It is that really flimsy stuff. I mean, that's probably not going to last very long, but nonetheless, like I said, I think it's easier to put that on and then put the legs on. You see, with the little feet ready to go. Lift it up, and then I'll secure the roof. The sides should be fairly easy to do once it's already put up, but this roof would be a pain to put on, I think, when it's all the way elevated. Alrighty, yeah, I would definitely say put that on before you put the legs on. I'm sure there's a way to get that on once it's up like this, but not going to be easy. The other thing I will point out, and I'm glad I did it on the ground, is when I unfolded it, the way they had it in there, it's actually folded to go across that way, not lengthwise. So I thought it was folded lengthwise, so I was unfolding it across, and then when I started putting it together, I realized it wasn't long enough, so I had to spin it, and like I said, that would have been really tough being up there. But you see the wind is still kicking up strong, so I'm going to definitely want to attach those to the ground and probably shore up the inside. I'm sure those little stretchy things are supposed to go through there and around, but I may have to zip tie or maybe even something sturdier. I don't know, because I mean, the wind has sort of died down and it's still kicking up pretty good. But it's pretty good size in there. I think it'll be perfect for using it as a painting booth for a DIY guy. Now, the question's gonna be, I saw there's 2 more packages in there with tarps. I couldn't think of the word earlier, but basically those cheap tarp is what that's made of. So I need 2 ends of the garage and 2 walls, and there's 2 packs in there, so they may be really, really flimsy, or I only got half of them. The other thing, I got 8 bolts and 7 nuts for holding those on. Thankfully, I had a nut and bolt that worked to be my 8th one, but weirdly, the bolt they gave doesn't seem to be metric, doesn't seem to be standard size. I tried both, and both of them didn't work. So I don't know what Temu'd's using for bolts, but they're some sort of hybrid. Anyway, that's up for now. I don't know if I'll bother putting the walls on with it being this windy, but I feel like I do need to bolt it to the ground at least, so I'll probably do that. Just figure out where exactly is going to be the ideal place so that I can still get the mower out of here and still change tires, and then Once it's in the ground, it's in the ground, not easy to move. So I'm getting kind of worn out fighting with the wind, and it's about dinner time anyway, so I'm gonna quit for now. But you see I got this one sort of on. I've got the garage door sort of on, and parked the truck in here just to give you an idea. It looks like if you were painting the truck, you would plenty of room on the sides, obviously, as you can see, but at the front and rear it's going to be tight. But sides have got plenty of room. So I'm going to tell you my prediction. I'm going to go home. When I come back, my guess is that will have unzipped itself, perhaps broken itself. Most of these will probably have snapped off. In fact, the whole paneling thing may be gone. I think the whole garage is going to try to move around. Like I said, I don't have it anchored in the floor yet, but I think the truck will keep it from totally flying out of here, or it may totally scratch up the truck trying to get out of here. I don't know. Anyway, we shall see. I did have a thought of putting this inside the garage to make the paint booth, and just watching this, that may be the smartest thing to do. I don't know how easy this will be to move, but it may be worth it. Alright, I moved it inside the shop. That was a challenge because I actually moved it assembled, and as you can see, I darn near broke that. And like, it was bent basically straight out this way like an L. This one was bent too. I bent it back best I could. So here's the pros and the cons of this. Outside would have been ideal, but I really think there was just so much wind, because I don't know why, but that area of the shop gets a ton of wind. And I think it would have just tore this thing up. It would have moved all over the place. All the little zip ties would have broke. These things are just completely useless. Like, at least based on my experience with the portable carport that I had before, these things lasted like a week or so before they were so stretched out that they completely failed. Again, that was a wind factor. I got to figure out, I've looked all over the place, but apparently when I moved it, 3 of those popped off the screws. You see I got that one back on, this one back on. You can see the original holes on those. This one I still haven't found the screw, and I even ran the magnet over the ground. But so, con of having this indoors, there's my shop door. You're looking through the window of the portable garage, if you will. And here's the door for the portable garage. So as far as access to the paint equipment, air compressor, all that, it will be a good location. It will be terrible for me trying to get out of here. Now I know your first thought is, well, just move the garage a little bit, give yourself a little more room, maybe move that cabinet, whatever. I mean, yeah, these are all things I can do. I did think about if I moved the garage back towards that garage door somewhat, if that would help. Maybe even angled it, because obviously when you drive in from there, you're kind of having to come over this way and then straighten out. If I angled it so that it was basically a straight shot towards that garage, that might help. But then you have the issue of the second car in here, which I like to keep 2 cars in here so they're protected from the elements and so forth. So yeah, then you say, well, just park this car over a little further. Well, I mean, there's a little bit of room over there, but you start moving things around and you start losing functionality. Kind of like over here. I mean, there's not realistically room to walk through here now. So these are all things I'm going to have to figure out. And then, yes, believe it or not, I'm even thinking about, should I buy a second one of these, put it up outside and just see, you know, does it survive for more than a month or two? Just because it would be nice to have outside, because I don't know, you've seen the bird droppings all over the vehicles. The birds love that part of the shop, I think, because it makes them feel safe and secure. And what do birds do? They poop on your cars. So definite wishes for this. Wish there was a door. Basically, make the walls mirror each other. So put a garage door on that side and put a walk-through door on there. It would be super wonderful if you could basically make these panels to where you could have the door there and the window here, or the door there, or what, you know, basically they could make this 3 panels that connect with Velcro or something, and that way you could pick which part had the door, or even better, have them be a door and a window in each spot to where you could open the door or the window or both. But anyway, you know, as cheap as this thing was, I can't really have too much of a wish list on it. The other thing, I probably need to put a light fixture there. I mean, so there is my quote-unquote paint booth for now. I think this will be good. That now, the crappy thing is, since I don't paint daily, it'd be really nice, of course, way out of my budget, to have this thing on some sort of hoist and literally hoist it up to the roof so it's floating most of the time, because then I wouldn't have to worry about like where access to the tools and the doors and everything else is. I would just walk around and this thing would be above my head. I think the bottoms of this would probably be at least 6 feet off the ground, and then just lower it into place when I needed it. That would be ideal, but I don't know that that's very realistic for somebody like me. Anyway, that's what she looks like. The cheap Temu'd portable garage. Looks nothing like the pictures they depict. Shocker there, right? It is very thin, cheap, gray tarp material. Probably the cheapest Harbor Freight tarp you can buy. It's probably that level of quality, would be my guess. So inside here with no weather, it'll be fine. It's not gonna fall apart. Outside in the wind, I think this thing would fall apart very quickly. This is my initial setup. I went with 2 LED lights. First I was just gonna do one right smack dab in the middle, and then I thought, you know, it's not gonna be good if the engine is on that side. You kind of need light directly over the engine, I feel like, when you're working on it. And then the other light just kind of generically over the vehicle if you're in here polishing or whatever. I have the ability, obviously, to add more. I could do 3 lights. I could do basically 1 on each section if I need it. I don't think I'll need it. I mean, heck, I could do, you know, lights hanging off basically those pieces instead of middle. But I think this will be very adequate. Obviously, you can tell it's pretty bright in here now, and it is tied in. Yes, I know, it looks silly. I cut a hole and then duct taped it and zip tied the hangers there and everything, but I wanted everything to be somewhat flexible if I need to move things around. I'll tell you though, they call this a portable garage. There's nothing portable about it, so just trying to move it around so that I could climb up and plug in that extension cord into the ceiling. These bars were bending badly and almost breaking again, so I don't know how they get away with calling this portable. I mean, it's inside, and as long as I don't move it, it will be fine, but trying to move it around even the least bit tends to destroy it. So anyway, we'll see how long I like having this as a quote-unquote paint booth. and also trying to keep another vehicle in here. You know, I wasn't really thinking about trying to back it out of here to get to that door. It's a sharp enough turn. The Charger can probably make it. I don't think the Avalanche can. So that is the downside to having something this big in here. It's kind of turning this whole thing into a one-car garage. I should take whatever's normally parked over there and not have one there, and then just kind of scooch this over to the middle, make it the paint booth in the middle, and then I have access all around the outsides, which right now, like, getting to things is not very convenient. So I'll have to figure it out. I don't paint enough, unfortunately, to totally justify having this full time. If I was painting, you know, a vehicle a week or something, it would be kind of a no-brainer. So anyway, I wish there was an easy way to kind of fold this thing up, but unfortunately, you're talking about having to disconnect all of these things probably, and, you know, cutting my zip ties and then folding it up somehow. You know, in theory, you would think, well, you could just tip this thing over so that that wall became the floor, basically, but I don't think that would work in reality. And like I said, it's so flimsy, every time you move something, something breaks. So this is it for now. Well, I just discovered this. If I turn it off with that switch there, it turns off everything in the chain. So that's kind of nice. So I don't have to have these lights on. I don't know, honest to God, what sort of damage these sort of lights do to vehicles. If it's just, basically, if I have a car parked in here day after day after day, and every day for as many hours as I'm here, these things are shining down directly on the paint. I don't know what sort of fading, if anything, that does. So I'll probably leave these off except when I'm actually under here working, and that way I don't have to worry about that.